What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Sounds Heavy podcast. I'm your host, Rez. Dang it, man.
Look at you. Look at you.
I
Can't escape the other podcast is what it is.
I'm trying to dissociate myself with that. I'm your host, Darrell.
And I'm Trey.
What's up, dude? Now I done screwed our intro up.
Yeah. So, it's all good.
I was a guest on a podcast last night. I haven't done any guest appearances in months, it feels like. I've barely even done some of the other podcasts that, just life's been so crazy. Now we've had 2 deaths in the family.
Right.
So it's been wide open. And I feel bad because I've got this group of guys that I do like comic book and video game podcast stuff with. And like, they're awesome dudes. If they lived in town, like, we would be freaking hanging all the time. And so one of them reaches out to me. He's like, "Hey, man, I know it's last minute, but can you like do the show with me?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. I'll clear my schedule." I'll reach out to my wife, and I was like, "I really need to do this." The dude has very kindly sent me like boxes of comic books, like 48 pounds of comic books, or 60 pounds, something crazy like that.
Are they good ones?
Yeah. It's like entire Batman runs from like the 90s and stuff like that. Early
That's what's up, dude.
Yeah, but he said he's moving. And he lives in Chicago, and he's like, I'm moving, and he's like, I really need to like liquidate a lot of this stuff. So he's got a handful of friends that he's just been like dumping stuff to. And I've tried to do nice things, to reciprocate, because that's a lot, man. It's a real big investment. He's just turning over to.
Oh, yeah.
So the night when he needed help on a show, I was like, I will 100%. This is the least I can do.
Yep.
So I clear my schedule, and I do the guest appearance there. And I was talking with him. It was awesome. I had a good time. The show is called Geek Life HQ. Normally the show is very
geeky.
Well, it's geeky, but it's also very crude.
Oh, okay.
I always joke and say it's like the R-rated version of my gaming podcast, because we really do. We kind of ride that line over what's appropriate and inappropriate.
Yeah.
And I've added new guests that are like way more vulgar than me and the guys, and so it really has kind of like changed our show, But they're good people, and I really enjoy talking with them. We have a lot of fun. So it's kind of added that R-rated flair to even our other show. But doing the show with them last night, man, we had a blast, and we were just talking about Sounds Heavy and just music stuff. And some of the guys didn't know I was even doing it. I'm like, man, like, as much as we talk, I was like, I thought I had already been like, hey, by the way.
Yeah.
So either way, I was pimping the show to some of these guys, and some of the guys I'd never done it, any recording with before. But we got some new folks listening.
Awesome.
Our listenership in general has gone up, on YouTube and on in the actual podcast feeds. So it's been really cool. There's been a lot of positive feedback. So
yeah, this podcasting thing is definitely different, man. I've been doing it for not yet a year, but like this show's fun. I like my other show, but my other show gets really deep. I mean, it don't take long for us to get really deep. We'll talk about the weather, or our weeks for a minute, and and then let's just jump off a cliff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Straight in. We've done a couple episodes that are fun, like movies and different stuff like that or whatever. But it's strange getting used to it. It's strange getting used to having to talk in a way that is going to be broadcast potentially to anybody.
Yep.
And that's the strange things, because all of a sudden you realize, oh wait, if I step into a target zone and we've got enough listeners, yes, this could actually do something to my reputation,
dude. I think about that sometimes, because I'll get carried away, and you know how I am, because once I get the laughing and cutting up, and in the moment, I tend to start to go farther and farther with what I think is acceptable humor. And sometimes I'll say stuff on our show, and I'll think back, that was a real bad idea. Like that one's going to bite me.
Yeah.
So trying to get canceled is basically what's happening. So.
Yeah, well, that's the sad part, is nowadays you can get canceled going any number of directions.
Oh yeah, good or bad.
You know what I'm saying? You can get canceled going too far in the vulgarity. You can get canceled going too far in the like the conservative, whatever. Basically, anytime you talk, you're potentially going to become a meme.
That's right.
That's
right.
And that's something it's it's not easy to get used to, and I guess my mindset has kind of become, well, F it. I legit will just say what I want to say, and try to say it in such a way that there is little chance of being completely misinterpreted, but it's still, it is what it is, especially like with what we're going to talk about today. I mean, I don't know how many people you could potentially piss off by saying the wrong thing about an album.
Yeah. Well, so is it an album? I think.
Well, I mean, I was just saying in general, because we've talked about kind of putting our toe in the water with this type of thing, reviewing CDs and albums. Well, I don't know if CDs exist anymore.
I still call them that. I'm still stuck on it.
But reviewing albums and EPs and basically reviewing other people's music as musicians.
Yeah. And
that's it's kind of it's a little bit scary because it's one thing for somebody who's just a consumer, right? Who's never picked up a guitar, never picked up a set of sticks, never tried to scream, to sit there and judge somebody's work, because you're like, okay, well, they're a fan. Mm-hmm. And they can have these opinions about whatever, but then when you're somebody who's actually put music out into the ether, and you start criticizing other people's music, there's potential where somebody come back and be like, "Yo, your stuff sucks."
You're right. it does.
But yeah.
Well, that's crazy. So when we started this podcast, and I was explaining this on Geek Life HQ last night. The idea was that we were just going to do almost like a documentary about the life and the inception of our band, and then kind of like navigate through the songs.
Yeah.
And then you and I had talked about, and then once we have done all that, then we'll venture out and just maybe talk music. You know? And immediately, as soon as the first episode went live, we started getting asked to do different things.
Yep.
We've the Cleansing of the Temple guys were like, "Can we be on your show?" I was like, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I already kind of planned on talking to them anyways,
right?
But it worked out. So now we've talked to several different bands. We've talked about our own music, like just kind of like the creation of Creator, like our latest release.
Yep.
We've had several people in this group on Facebook, this metalcore Facebook group, ask if we would review and react to their stuff. Now, most people haven't sent their stuff in, but a handful of bands have. So, tangentially to that, we have things that we want to talk about. This Convictions album that we're going to talk about today. So, if you're listening to the show and you want us to check out your music, we will definitely check it out.
Yep.
And we'll listen to it from a fan's perspective and a pseudo artist perspective.
Maybe semi-artist, not pseudo-artist, because we've put stuff out.
Yeah,
that makes us artists. Doesn't make us good artists.
We've put bad stuff out, and we've put good stuff out. So,
well, see, so this is something, right? And this will come into play as we start talking about the Convictions album or whatever. But like, it's really, really hard to put out stuff that sounds really good. That gets people's attention, right? And so, like, I haven't done this very often in the past, 10 years. But here in the past few months, I've gone back to, like, our old stuff that we recorded that just sounds like it was recorded in a garbage can.
It was.
And I feel it a shame that we didn't have the skill or the knowledge or the money to actually make those songs sound the way that they should.
Yep.
Because when we played them live, man, I mean, they were barn burners. Everybody, we used to get everybody moving, and it was always fun to play, and so it always sounded in our heads like it was supposed to. But then when we recorded the album, it's just like it just falls flat.
It sounds like somebody put a blanket over the band. As we were performing.
Yeah, and we definitely learned a lot since then. And I hope to go back and record some of that old stuff, re-record some of that old stuff, just in general. But like. It's really, really hard, one, to put yourself out there, you know what I'm saying, and just say that, like, I think that this is worth somebody else listening to, and then to have that something sound really good and catch somebody's attention so that they want to listen to it again and again and again, because that's what we as music lovers, especially as, like, heavy music lovers, that's what we do, right? We just like there will be days when we get in a mood and we go back to our favorite albums,
Yep.
and we just listen to them on
Still
repeat.
on repeat all day long. Yep.
We do that with songs that are made. Like one of the songs on the Convictions album. Which one was it? It was that.
The Grace, the Price of Grace.
Yeah, The Price of Grace. When that song dropped, man, I listened to it 3 or 4 times every day. And I put it on a playlist on my phone and was like, this song's awesome.
Chemicals by Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah.
That one hit me I don't know, it just kind of came out of left field, and the song had been out for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a huge Devil Wears Prada fan.
Right.
And that album that it's on, that title track is weird. Like the first song is like...
Well, that whole album's kind of strange.
It really is. It's one of those things that it's almost like it's... I don't know that gross is the right word, but his vocal stuff is just like... It's so bad it's good.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, their zombie EP shows they can do good vocal stuff.
Yeah.
But the things he was doing on that album was like... Maylene and the Sons of Disaster early, like, is this good?
Yeah.
Like, do I like this? I mean, I think I like it.
Yeah.
And
that's something that's kind of in vogue right now with certain people in like the metal scene, is to have these vocals that are like, okay, so when Gent started coming around, mm-hmm. and bands like Periphery were blowing up, it became really, really awesome to have these like high-pitched singing vocals. And it took me a while to get used to them, but when I got used to them, there are songs that I just love with that stuff in it. But then now it seems like the movement is toward like, what if my voice breaks in the middle of screaming? And so a lot of bands are doing that, and I honestly don't know what to think about it.
See, I love it when it's done correctly, like Old Amir and Scars of Tomorrow.
Well, there's an intentional blend, right? What it sounds like in newer music is just like, oh, I accidentally screamed a little too hard and almost blew out my vocals.
Yes.
But we left it in because it sounds emotional or it sounds cool or something. And like, I don't know what I think about it yet. I assume that maybe one day I'll get to where somebody does it perfect and it's like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Just like listening to Periphery really started to help me get on board with the vocals.
Really high highs.
Yeah.
And I'm in a love-hate relationship with really heavy growls, really heavy guitar, and then really high-pitched singing.
Yeah.
Like it's very formulaic right now. Like it's very metalcore, like I don't ever want to call anything screamo, but when you think about when someone says, "Ooh, I like screamo bands," you're like, yeah, you like boys that are dressed as girls with really high-pitched singing, and that's kind of where my head goes. I prefer like a mid-range, if you're going to do really low growls, I think that's awesome. But then having like a mid-range or a rasp singing, like the first track, I guess we'll go right into, some of the Conviction stuff. That first track on there, the one about war, the singing is not crazy high-pitched.
Yeah.
And to me, that's like the best version of it in the album. Now, there are certain choruses and certain melodies that hit really hard in this quote album, but like that one in particular, that's what I prefer, just use it as an example. So, but what did you think about the album altogether? Like, I guess your first impressions of it.
All right, so the album's called "We Won't Survive," right? Is that what it's?
Yep, I Won't Survive. Yeah,
I Won't Survive. And I was really looking forward to this coming out because I didn't know that it was just going to be an EP. And Spotify actually has mislabeled it as an album, and so like I was waiting for it to come out, and the day it came out, I was like, oh yeah, it's on my new release list, and I immediately went to listen to it, and of course, the first probably 4 tracks on the album had already been released, and so I had listened to those a good bit just because I'm not classically a Convictions fan, right? I think that they write good music, and when they've come up on different playlists that I have going every now and again, I've enjoyed their music, but it's never stood out to me, right? But then the songs off of this EP that have come out, that I thought were just above and beyond probably the best stuff that they've written, compared to anything else I've listened to. And I was really, really excited, and so, I pull it up, and I didn't count the tracks. Like I just seen the title track, or not. the first track and I just hit play on Spotify and started listening. And then, you know, the first 4 tracks are the singles that they released. And then there's like 2 more tracks.
And one of them's not even a full song. It's like,
and
it's instrumental.
And those are the ones that I hadn't heard. And they were good songs, but it was really weird because I'd been looking forward so much to hearing stuff exactly like the stuff that they already put out.
Yep.
And then it was kind of cut off.
Yep.
And so I think musically, the album just overall, right, is really, really different for them, and I like it for that reason, because I don't think that they've ever been as heavy. I don't think they've ever been quite as emotional. And I know that the dude who came in to do the clean vocals is a new guy. And so they had like some lineup changes that happened, and he came in, and so I think that that's added something to the music, just being able to have that sing-songy type chorus stuff and have it sound really good, because I think he's a very talented vocalist. I think that you know, it's one of those things where after it ended and there was no more music playing, I was just kind of like, what happened? Honestly, I don't know what happened. And so I looked down at my phone and I'm like, oh,
it's over.
Well, there's only 7 tracks on the album.
Yep.
You know,
it's 25 minutes,
and one of the tracks is like mostly instrumental.
Yeah,
and it's not, and I don't mean to hate in a way, but it's instrumentals on metal albums are not my favorite.
Correct.
And so when you put an instrumental on a 7-track album, it just kind of annoys me more than anything.
Yeah.
And so when I got there, and every time I've listened to it since, when it gets to the instrumental, my brain kind of goes away. And I don't listen to the rest of the album as closely as I listen to those first few songs. So yeah,
I've never. It's rare that you hear an instrumental that's like really good. You know, it's like, well,
right.
Why wasn't that just a song, or why is that even here? And if you like, so I'm going to go back to the band Chimera. They have like an instrumental on one of their the Pass Out of Existence album. This is technically their first full length release. Because Roadrunner said they had to have 14 songs. So they only had 10 written. They ripped a couple from their EP, and then they did an instrumental.
Yep. And
the running joke is when they would print their set list, they would put that instrumental song. It would be, I think it's called like Labo or something like, it starts with L, whatever it is. It'd be instrumental, song, instrumental. They would put it on their set list like 6 or 7 times as a joke.
Right.
And they all hated it, but they put it on there as like a filler to hit their number because the record label said they had to have it. Mm-hmm. What's frustrating to me is like, if you, like, I understand because I like to dabble in electronic stuff and I like to write different types of music.
Certainly.
So if you have something that really you think is a banger, it's really cool, then include it. But if you're doing it to hit an arbitrary number, it's just so, it's like, it seems almost like, oh, well, that's why that's there.
Right. Well, you remember Bless the Martyr Kiss Child by Norma Jean. That album had that one song on there that was like 15 minutes long, and it's because the majority of the song is like just a really long instrumental. Mm-hmm. And I think that in cases like that is where it's done right.
Yes.
Because as a musician, one of my favorite things to do when you're not rehearsing stuff that you plan on playing is when you get in a room with guys that you know you gel with and you just play. Mm-hmm. And when an instrumental sounds like that and there's this cohesive build up and you can see where things are going, you know, because when you write songs and you structure out the way you want a track to flow, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes there's hard stops, sometimes there's like shifts and changes in tempo and stuff that you plan out. But then with these instrumental kind of noodling sessions, you know, it's like you build up, you get to a high point and you kind of ride it for a little bit, and maybe the guitarist does something crazy and sounds awesome. Maybe they just get heavy, you know, and then you bring it back down and you do whatever you want to with it. And I think that when an instrumental kind of tells a story is when I'm most engaged by it.
Thank you.
And the instrumental part was probably my least favorite part of this album. Yeah. And that's saying not a lot because I loved all of the other tracks.
They're good.
Like, I really did.
They're good. I overall enjoyed the album, or EP. It's hard to call it an album personally.
Yeah, I think Spotify just mislabeled it.
Yeah. But it's really good, and it's unfortunate because it's so short. It's like, oh, dang, I was really digging it.
Yeah.
Likewise, I love the new sound. Because I listened to, so I really love their Billie Eilish cover. Mm-hmm. that they did last year, and the singing was really good. It's so heavy, like, and then they do that weird. Everyone's kind of doing the weird guitar effects and noises in between their chuggy parts and their breakdowns and stuff. Yeah. And so, on that song by itself, as a standalone piece of music, it's awesome. If you listen to this EP start to finish, they do that between every breakdown, every break.
Yeah.
And it really diminishes, like, how cool that noise is, you know? And how, like, I'll be honest, as a guitar player, I don't even know how they make some of these noises, you know? Like, and I've watched some videos on some guys that just do full tracks making all the weird guitar noises. And, like, it's awesome. But it's just like anything else. If you do it too much, it takes away from what it is. You know, like, we're doing our album right now. And one of the things I said was, after Sovereign, there's this really, like, slow and chunky, not very technical piece that I've written.
Yeah. I
want to use that. And I do feel that, like, if every single song is like the most wildest, craziest thing you can do, well, then your wildest, craziest thing is not cool anymore. It's just the norm. It's the standard.
Right.
And that's where a lot of metal bands go wrong. It's like, here's our speed, and we're going to hit it. We're going to hit it. We're going to hit it. And then 7 tracks later, you're like, what's the difference anymore? Like, at this point, like, and then all your little cool things that you did. And I'm a sucker for cool things, you know? Like, if you look back to all the music we've written, I've tried to put something in every song that was a little different or different than the rest of that song so that it stands out.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And it's just one of those things where I come from an era where guitar players wrote catchy riffs.
Yeah. And that's you read my mind just then, because if you think about where we both kind of grew up in as far as the music goes, right? Living Sacrifice, bands in that era and genre, you know, like, you don't hear guitar work like that very often anymore, because nowadays it's like, can we get something where the melody is driving and sounds nice in a certain key? Because certain keys work really well, you know, or can we get like this specific type of breakdown going, you know what I'm saying, and we use it over and over again, you know. And I think that there's a lot of albums and a lot of artists that do that kind of stuff really well, but it's like you just said, there's not enough diversity. And I've heard people talk about, like, what's the I don't know the right term for it, but basically just genre overload.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying, where there's so many bands that kind of sound similar that you don't, there's not very many ways for bands to stand out if they've committed themselves to, like, we're going to play this speed, we're going to play this style, we're going to do this, you know. Because there for a while, you remember Rise Records, like,
all their bands sounded the same.
Every band was the exact same on Rise Records.
And even when they were recruiting friends of ours, they were like, you kind of need to fit this mold to roll with us.
Yeah.
And when they decided they were going to go the opposite direction, they lost interest in them.
Yeah, and but when you listen back to, like, Korn or Living Sacrifice or any of those bands that came out of that time frame, like, their music and especially their drum beats were built around what the guitars could do. You know, because the guitarists would just sit there and go, "Oh, this sounds cool, ba-na-na-na-na, dun dun dun, ba-da-da-da-da-da," you know, and, like, all of a sudden you've got a drummer who's like, okay, well, I can vibe on that, I can do something with that, and then you have the rest of the band come in and it's like, no, you just created something.
Yes.
You know, you made something that's special.
And so, like, us going back to with Convictions, it's like that one song is special because it's like, here's a cover of a song that kind of, I thought was just meh, you know? And then they freaking really made it heavy, and they made it cool, and then they did the in their, you know, their riffs or whatever, and then they do that in the whole freaking EP, like every song. Oh, yeah. And it's like, the first time I heard it, you know, listening to The War That Follow Me Home or whatever it's called, I was like, oof, that's nasty.
Yeah.
Then the second song, I was like, oh, he did it again, that's cool. And then third song.
Yeah.
And then by the fourth and fifth song, it's like, okay, I get it. You're going to do that every time now. It's not, it doesn't take away from how cool it is, but when you just do that track after track after track.
Yeah.
Now, break those tracks apart, throw them in a playlist with a bunch of other bands.
Yes.
Now they stand out.
Oh, yes.
You know? Yes. And so, kind of moving off of the guitar parts into the choruses, you know, and the actual song structures, they start to do the same thing again, where it's like, here's this just really heavy, here's our riff, here's our thing, and then here's our pretty singing chorus.
Yep.
And then here's this really heavy thing. And their breakdowns are really good in this EP.
Yes.
The breakdowns are really good.
Very good.
But again, it's one of those things where I was like, oh my gosh, they have so many great elements. But like 6 tracks in a row, it's kind of like you see the formula.
Yep.
I really would have loved for this to be like 10 or 11 tracks, and then there'd be something to break up each of these songs.
Yeah, well, that's what's missing for me. Mm-hmm. Is like, okay, so if you kind of take a step aside from the music, because here's what's been getting me through the album over and over again, and here's why I really do think that it's a phenomenal album overall, and why it's something that for me is going to stand the test of time, and it's because of their lyric content. You know what I'm saying? It's because of what they put into what they're saying and what they're trying to do. And so and I know we keep on going back to this one song or whatever, but with The Price of Grace, which is, I think, the best song on the album.
That's a good one.
There's numerous parts in there where they intentionally, like, stopped or did something that was drastic to get your attention. But they didn't just do it with the music. They did it vocally, mm-hmm. and they did it with the lyrics, right? And so there's this one part in there where he says, you embraced your demons and gave into suicide. You deserve to survive. And then it's got this nasty, like, doom, dun, 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 whap, 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 whatever. Yeah. But then, like, there's this disgustingly low growl that he does right at the end of that breakdown. And you're like, oh, man. Yeah. You can feel the pain, you know what I'm saying? You can feel like why he wrote the lyrics, and I think that's what stood out for me with all the songs is like, yeah, there's a good bit of repetition as far as like the style that they're going for is concerned, but
it works. It's a good thing. I'm not.
Yeah, no.
Hating, but
what I'm saying is like it's not often that you get a metalcore band that is willing to commit to really, really good lyrics, and I think that this is something that they did. In this album, and I hate that about the genre, right? Is that because we were talking about this before we started recording? Like, it seems this just thing for metalcore bands to write albums where the lyrics don't make any sense. Everybody wants to be really poetic. Everybody wants to be really artsy. You know what I'm saying, with the way that they say things, and I guess I'm just not smart enough to like figure that out sometimes. And so when a band is just like they say what they mean. You know what I'm saying? And there's nothing left to imagination. It gets me.
That goes back to the way you write, because the way you write songs, you say what you mean.
Right.
The way I handle conflict, I say what I mean.
Yeah.
So I resonate with that. But if you look back on some of our previous work, some of our previous vocalists, mm-hmm. even Justin, the co-founder of the band, snap your neck and walk backwards. What does that mean? I don't know, but it's like, so some of the stuff, even our guys that we've had in here, they write things, and it's like, there was intent behind it. I don't know what he meant by it, but it was cool, but like, that's definitely a thing that like I personally resonate with, is like, just say what you mean.
Yeah.
Which is kind of why I love beat down, like really vulgar music, because they say what they mean.
Oh yeah.
Like a correlation between Limp Bizkit and Emure. Nothing coming out of their mouths is positive at all. But like, right. I get what they're saying, like I know exactly what you mean by this.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so, but yeah, overall I liked it. And I point out the formulaic stuff because like, that's how I absorb music. That's how, like, I'm listening to stuff and I'm like, here's what I like. Here's how I write. And then here's what you did. How does that all work together? And I like to try to listen to stuff and learn from it too. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh man, like I don't really write very well structured songs and very good chorusy stuff, So I'm listening to them like, oh man, like they go heavy, 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 boom. There's a nice chorus, some good singing parts, heavy, 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 and I'm identifying it, and I'm like, man, I could probably do that. And then we get in a room and we start writing, and it's like, here's a riff, here's a riff, here's a riff, here's a riff, here's a riff. What do we do with them? Let's put some breakdowns in between them, and then we just. So it's like, it's almost like I see it and I notice it and I identify it, and it's just I want to be able to do that, but also because of the nature of how I like and do things, I want it, but I don't want to be. And this is the flip side of the coin. I don't like your Chariot style stuff that gets so spastic and it never circles back home.
Right.
You know, like I like a mixture in between. I don't want it to be like verse, chorus, breakdown, chorus out. But in the same respect, I don't want it to be like, and then it just goes into the next thing and it goes into the next thing. And even though we've written songs in that vein, our hinges were always the breakdown, get you moving, get you dancing. And so, I don't know. Listen to it. It's really good. It's really good. But I just kind of had noticed a few of those things.
Yeah, so. Well, there's definitely a skill involved with being able to write stuff that you can sing to. It's not as easy as it seems, you know, because underneath somebody doing these really awesome melodic, clean vocals, you know what I'm saying, like with a melody that works really well.
Yeah.
It's not easy to write those riffs, and it's not easy to write those vocal melodies that go on top of it that make it all work.
Right.
It's really not. Like if you just think of think back in grade school when you learned "Mary Had a Little Lamb" on the recorder, it's not like that. You know what I'm saying? Because the vocals in a good melodic riff don't match the guitar. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's stuff that's just you're hitting the notes. You know what I'm saying? But the cadence is different, and just the way that you're presenting everything is a little bit different because the vocalist can do something that sets the guitar off and vice versa.
Heck yeah.
And I would love to be able to incorporate that stuff in our music, you know what I'm saying, in the way that we write and all that kind of stuff. But it's definitely a skill set that's developed. It's not something that just is, it just comes, you know. And
well, if it's funny because like the way we write is the opposite of that.
Yeah.
You know? So whenever I write by myself, I try to make myself verse, chorus.
Yeah.
And then when I present the music to you guys, the way it's always received is the same. It's like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
And it's like, if we get in the room and we try this, I know what this is going to look like.
Right.
It's going to be like riff, 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 breakdown, riff, 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 breakdown, riff. And it's like, what are we going to do? Let's break down our breakdown. Got it.
Yeah.
And so whenever I'm writing, I'm trying to be intentional to try to incorporate some of that stuff, but like, it's a little less organic. And so that's why I get envious of stuff that works like this, because my favorite song on the album is Hurricane.
Yeah.
And it's so sing along, you know, and it's like, it's a good song all the way around. I love The Price of Grace, but right now the one that sticks in my head the same way their Billie Eilish cover sticks is Hurricane.
Yeah. Well, like you said earlier, man, every track has got its merits, and every track I think is going to stand the test of time, stylistically and everything else. I think Convictions definitely put something out that is well worth keeping on repeat. You know what I'm saying? And
they're trying to hit 1 million plays right now. So.
Yeah. Well, and in the way that we've talked about the weaknesses, you know what I'm saying? That's all it is. It's just something that's weaker on the album than the rest of it. It's not something that's bad, you know.
That's good.
Because I would hate to try and downplay an album like this. I would hate to try and say that there's anything really terrible about it, and I don't think we've done that. But yeah, it's well worth the listen. It's well worth it's well worth reading the lyrics, man. Genius.com has all the lyrics up, and they're like I said, they're really good. They're not vague. They're not
the art is
strange.
Really cool. The art for the album is really cool. So
I don't know. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, man. And you know, having talked about this album the way we have, I look forward to being able to talk about some more albums.
Heck yeah. So overall, I would say our impressions are extremely high, very favorable. I love the album. I'm going to keep listening to it. In the next coming weeks, we're going to have other albums that we're going to be checking out, reviewing, critiquing, whatever you want to call it, giving our impressions of.
Yeah.
So I look forward to doing this kind of stuff. And if you guys are listening to the show and you want to send us your music, you want us to check it out, all you got to do is email us at soundsheavypodcast@gmail.com. Trey and I will listen to your stuff, and we'll tell you what we think about it. We've got one coming up. The very next music review we do will be Semper Acerbus. I think I'm saying it right. I hope I'm saying it right. But a little preview. I love the album title. The album title is called Ouroboros.
Yeah.
That's some straight up Resident Evil junk right there. I'm sure that's not what they meant by it.
Yeah, I was gonna say they have the Ouroboros on the album cover.
Oh gosh, dude! When he sent it to me, there's two things that stood out. He's like, "Hey, here's the song we did with the vocals from El Nino." I'm like, "Oh, one of my favorite bands." Okay, and then the album's called Ouroboros. I'm like, "Oh, one of my favorite elements of Resident Evil.
Yeah.
So hey, but yeah, next time we get together, we'll be talking about that one. Trey, I appreciate you sitting down and knocking this one out with me. This one was your idea?
Yeah, well, and I'll go ahead and say this too. The only reason we didn't talk about the Semper Acerberus album today was because I want to spend more time with it. I've listened to it a few times, and man, it's good. I want to get all my thoughts really together about it, and I'm looking forward to it.
Heck yeah, man. So yeah, if you're listening to Sounds Heavy, do us a favor, leave us some feedback on iTunes. I did want to say we got our first 1 star.
Oh wow!
So here's the thing. All right,
we're gonna read it. No, you can't.
No, they didn't. They didn't leave a review. They just gave us 1 star.
I bet it was Frosty.
I think it was. So here's the thing. We've gotten 8 reviews. You know, all of them have been very positive. 5 stars. Cool. I don't expect everybody to love what we do.
Right.
At the same time we got the 1 star on this show, I got a 1 star on the Loot Bros for the first time in 5 years.
Okay.
So I'm just like, oh, okay. Someone went and I didn't check my other shows, 2236 and the Comic Cast. It's possible that I got a 1 star on all of them because it very much seemed the same day I get a notice that's like, both your shows got a 1 star. Maybe it was personal, maybe it wasn't. I don't know.
That's funny.
I thought it was pretty
really
cool.
Funny.
Yeah, if you leave reviews, we'll read them on the show. 1 stars, 5 stars, whatever.
Yeah, I'd love to read a 1-star review.
That's the thing. It's like if you don't leave feedback, how do we know what we're doing is working?
Yeah.
If all we ever talked about was our band, and no one ever gave us any bad feedback about it, we guess what we keep talking about?
Our band.
If the only thing we ever did was review other people's music, and no one gave us any feedback, we would only review music. So
that's right.
We're going to do a little bit of everything with this show, and if you guys are liking it, let us know. If you're not liking it, let us know. You're not going to hurt our feelings. We've been playing music and creating things for 15 plus years now. You know, telling me you don't like a thing we covered on a show or did on a show is not going to hurt me. It's only going to make me go, maybe I should do better.
You can't be in music as long as we have and then get your feelings hurt by a whole lot of stuff.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, like, no matter what, there are going to be people that just hate your guts.
Yeah, there's nothing you can
hate
do.
any kind of art that you put out.
So,
you know.
One more thing, I will shout out the very kind words that have been on our YouTube.
Yes.
We've gotten a lot of positive response from Creator. Very kind reactions, some great reactions. So thank you guys for checking that out. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. And that's it, man. That's all we got today.
Yep. Stay metal and listen to something that sounds heavy.
Booyah.